course that I decided to integrate technology into was the TED 2350, which is an early childhood special education class. It was a brand new class that I was assigned to, so I was not only building the course, but I was also trying to figure out, okay, how can I flip it? So thanks to the I-Team, which is Ed, and Barbara, and Lorna, they came and observed me and gave me lots of ideas to make this class come alive. And so I designed objectives for myself as well as the students. I wanted to be able to implement a framework of the flipped classroom, and I wanted to use Blackboard as well as other authoring tools in order to increase student achievement in the course. And I also wanted to apply principles of instructional design using authoring tools to increase student interactions with the content. I found that the first time I taught the course, they were relying on me to deliver the information. And I wanted them to get the information. And then let's interact with it through inquiry in the face-to-face settings. And then lastly, I wanted to have them analyze various features of educational apps, because we are a Common Core state, and because of the new standards, classroom teachers are now required to integrate more technology into their classrooms. And not only technology for teaching, but assistive technology. So because this is a special education course, I wanted them to evaluate some of the apps using a rubric to get a sense of how, what's out there for future teachers. So here are some of the tools that I decided to play around with and my rationale. I chose Jing. I preferred that because I'm an old-fashioned person, so I like to sit at my computer and talk in the mic versus doing it on the iPad. I also wanted the students to listen to my lectures, so when we got to class, I didn't have to do so much talking. I could do the flipped classroom and do more inquiry with them. Also, YouTube, they love the YouTube. I also tried to use hot potatoes, and I'll model that. I wanted to do more with Google surveys for pre and post assessments. And then I wanted to get a sense of what's out there with regards to apps that students could access and use in their classrooms with children. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these things I did. So I'm going to pull up the Blackboard, and the first one I wanted to show you is the Jing. So I have my sessions set up, and they're based on each week, so the students can access the whole class beforehand. But the goal is for them to look at the session prior to coming to class. So I have the readings, I have my objectives, and in some of the sessions I actually do the lectures. Now, when the I-Team came to observe me, I had this document that I was sharing with the class. And they were like, well, do you really want to lecture through an IEP document? That's such a waste of time. This is like a 40-page document. Why don't you do a video lecture? So I said, okay, let's try that. So I come into the lectures and I open up Jing, and it's a Swift file that the students can access and play over and over and over. Okay, I guess that's
also known as the Individualized Education Program.
So playing around with Jing, you know, I had to freshen up on my voice. I had to sound good and attractive to get them to listen to the whole thing. And I like it because it's 5-minute snapshots. So you have to do everything in 5 minutes because knowing their attention, they're not going to sit through a whole hour. So I did it in 2 parts where they could actually listen to the overview. Some lessons learned is, I'll just hop down here, with the Jing. Definitely had to have a script because I found myself babbling a couple times. And ensuring that the software is recording, because you think you're recording, you're not recording. So I've made several recordings. But the students did appreciate that. And when the I-Team came to my class, they did a survey on the students. So I integrated that information. And many of the students told me through the survey that they actually prefer videos. So because of that, I incorporated more YouTubes, and they love it. So I not only do it in the online version, but when they come to class, I'll open up with a YouTube and have that as a part of our talk. But also, second runner-up was small groups and question and answer sessions. So I said, okay, well with that information, I definitely have to turn the class into a laboratory, if you will. So I figured, okay, how do I do more online where they can interact with it, and then when they come in, we're doing the inquiry. So I found hot potatoes, and that is an interaction website, so let's pull the Blackboard back up, where you could actually design games. So I thought, okay, let's have them play around with that. So let's come back to the content. And I believe that's in session 9. So I don't do it in every session because that's very time consuming. I'm sorry, let me go back to my cheat sheet. It's in session 13, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go back to session 13. Okay, and so here we have the readings and the assignments. And when I pop into here, the first thing I wanted them to do was the hot potatoes. So here, they actually have to do a matching game where they have to check and see, what do you already know about what we're getting ready to talk about? So they just kind of match things up, and then they can check their answers. And, oh, you have nothing, so you know nothing about this. So it's a great pre-assessment, and I'm like, okay, I can dive in. Now, when I did this with my learners, they actually knew, it was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They knew 4 out of the 5. So then I said, okay, let's figure out the one that you don't know. So they really like interacting with that. So that one was hot potatoes. Okay, so let's pull that back up. And then I said, well, let me do more with Google surveys because this is a great service out there. Let me see what I can do with that. So in session 10, I did it as a pre-assessment to see what do they know about this topic and what are some of your preconceived notions about disabilities. And so I called it an awareness assessment. So they had to come in and fill out, it was a very short survey, true, false, true, false. And then they submit it, so I get this data, and then they can see what their classmates thought about it. So for me, a learning point was, okay, what can I do with this information to integrate it more into our inquiry? And last but not least, I wanted to do more with iPad apps. And so with Common Core, they produced this document that I passed out to my learners, and I said, okay, here are the standards, here's the app. I'm going to put you into teams. You must choose an app, and then use this rubric. So let me show you the rubric that I told them to use. Okay, so they had to know the students' IEP goals, the name of the app, what content area are you working in, what domain. And based on this rubric, we were going to select apps that we could use as potential teaching tools in the classroom. And so one of the apps that I modeled for the students, and let me flip back over to the laptop here. Okay, let's see here. And I found a word families app for them to model for them. So I said, okay, let's take a look at this app. What are your thoughts on this app? And so, okay, and so we all played around with it, make a word, and based on the different apps that we looked at, let's go back to PC here. I said, okay, let's keep this rubric in mind. We're not just going to get an app because it's pretty. And that's the one thing that we're finding in education is that people are picking apps because they're pretty. I closed it out too soon. Okay, so I found that when I provided them guidelines and things like that, they realized, wow, we're paying all this money for an app and it's not really doing anything. So that was one of the takeaways that I wanted the students to get at. So, as regards to lessons learned with the Gene, like I said, I needed a script. With the YouTube, finding quality videos was very time consuming because you could type in a topic and tons of things are popping up. But you're realizing that it's a lot of crap out there. So weeding through all of that is very time consuming. The hot potatoes I found is a great tool. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get over that, you can definitely use it for a pre and post assessment activity. And like I said, troubleshooting can consume much time. With the Google surveys, I would have liked to use it more to help bone up more on our classroom discussions, on our question and answer pieces, and really getting students to examine their assumptions about certain things. And then the apps, I found that some students wanted Android equivalents or Microsoft equivalents. So really digging in the various platforms of apps that's out there, you had to find something that was comparable. So that was time consuming. So what changes? Given that I flipped the class classroom, I had to do more with problem-based learning. So that took way more prep time, given that I had to go out and find cases that the students can interact with. So I did a lot with case studies. So each week, I introduced a new disability by way of a case study. And then I would pose our question, the statement of the problem. So how do we integrate and instruct students with disabilities, given it's ADHD or autism or physical disability, while promoting full access to the general ed curriculum and activities? So that will be our key question every week to formulate the inquiry. Now, the impact, I noticed that students were engaging more with the content this semester versus last semester when I was teaching it. They were more willing to do the modules online. I saw students coming in, they had already printed out their things. Based on my midterm assessment, the test scores increased somewhat. So that was a plus sign. And student attendance actually increased. I was surprised because last semester I had a lot of absences. This semester it was like the students were excited. Okay, what are we going to do this week? And one student even told me she goes home and tells her mom every week, what she did this today and she did that today. So coming up with the different activities each week was kind of hard, but we managed that. So my next steps is I want to find a grant that will kind of give me a class set of iPads so that we can explore things together and not necessarily go off on our own, because I wanted to kind of give more scaffolding for that activity. And then I also want to do more with Twitter. I was surprised. I thought this is a young generation, they're all on Twitter. Shockingly, they're not. So I was encouraging them to do that. So I was thinking next semester I will require them to open up a Twitter account and we do more with social media. So that's my next.